Have you ever wondered why some people always end up on top? No matter the chaos, the betrayal, or the rules that crush everyone else. It's not luck, it's not charm, it's law. There's a brutal clarity to life that most ignore because it's too uncomfortable, too raw. But the few, the ones who rise, who rule, who win, they understand it instinctively. Machiavelli didn't invent this truth. He simply had the courage to write it down. And now, I'm going to hand it to you. Unfiltered, unmerciful, and devastatingly effective. This law will feel cold at first. It will whisper things your conscience wants to bury. But that's only because you've been fed weakness disguised as virtue. You want peace? Prepare for war. You want loyalty? Create fear. You want power? Then stop asking for permission. This isn't for the faint-hearted. But if you can stomach it, if you can own it, then you'll never be a pawn again. You'll be the one moving the pieces. So the only question left is, will you dare to learn what the winners already know? You're losing, not because you're weak, not because you're stupid, but because you're still playing the wrong game. You wake up, put on the mask, do what you're supposed to do, work hard, stay kind, wait your turn. And yet, nothing changes. You're still being overlooked, still being used, still being lied to with a smile. And the worst part? You feel it, in your gut. In that moment, when someone takes credit for your work, when they ghost you after everything you gave, when you realize the applause only lasts as long as you're useful, they don't want you. They want what you provide. That sting you're carrying, that rising frustration, that's not failure. That's betrayal. Because you were told the world was fair. That loyalty is rewarded. That goodness protects you. But here's the truth. You were trained to be prey. You've been taught to serve systems that don't serve you, to obey rules that others break behind your back, to sacrifice while others collect. You're being drained, and you don't even realize it. People smile as they pull from you, your time, your energy, your emotional labor. They praise your patience while they plot their next move. And every time you give without asking, they grow bolder. They see kindness as weakness. They interpret silence as surrender. This is the problem. Most people never realize they're being played. They think being nice is the same as being noble. They confuse self-sacrifice with strength. And so they keep losing, quietly, painfully, repeatedly. But now you're here. You're waking up. Let me make this clear. The world doesn't reward the most talented. It doesn't reward the most honest. It rewards those who understand power, and power doesn't beg. It decides. It chooses. It sees manipulation for what it is, a weapon, not a wound. You're not paranoid for noticing the games people play. You're perceptive. You're dangerous. You're finally beginning to see. You're starting to understand that the rules they gave you were never meant to benefit you. They were meant to control you. All your life, you've been reacting to rejection, to drama, to disrespect. Reacting is exactly what they want. Because when you're reactive, you're predictable. When you're predictable, you're manageable. When you're manageable, you're powerless. But when you stop reacting, you win. Because you become something they fear, an unknown. Unshaken, calculated, quiet. And behind that quiet, fire. You learn to read intentions, not words. You study patterns, not apologies. You stop needing to be liked and start being respected. Understand this. Most people lose because they seek approval from those who see them as tools. They hand over their power piece by piece, hoping someone will hand it back. But they won't. They never do. And they never will. Because the moment someone benefits from your weakness, they will feed it. They will reinforce it. They will exploit it. Until you forget what strength ever felt like. But that ends today. Because now you know what most never will. You're not here to be liked. You're here to take control. You don't need their permission. You don't owe them your silence. You don't have to justify your boundaries, your standards, or your rise. Let them whisper. Let them call you cold. Let them accuse you of changing. They only say that when they're losing control of you. So next time you feel the sting of being overlooked, the ache of being used, the fire of being underestimated, don't shrink, don't chase, don't react. Watch, calculate, and then move, ruthlessly, deliberately, silently. Because now you understand the truth, Machiavelli buried between the lines. The people who win aren't lucky. They're just no longer willing to be played. And neither are you. Here it is. The law the winners live by, spoken in whispers, buried in history, but visible in every empire, every boardroom, every power move you've ever witnessed. Perception is power. Control it, or be controlled by it. That's the secret. That's the law. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince as a guide for good men. He wrote it for survivors, for those surrounded by liars, traitors, manipulators, yet still determined to rule. And what he discovered is chilling, but true. It is not necessary to be good, only to appear good. You don't have to be kind. You don't have to be loyal. You don't even have to be just. You only have to look like you are, while doing what needs to be done underneath the surface. This is where most people fail. They focus on being virtuous. The winners focus on appearing virtuous. Big difference. People are moved by what they see, not what is real. They don't follow truth. They follow signals, confidence, composure, mystery, momentum. So what does this mean for you? It means you must learn to shape perception, yours and others. That's the game. That's the law. You don't speak every truth. You speak the useful truth. You don't react to every attack. You let people wonder if they even hit you. Control how they see you. Control what they expect from you. And you control the game. Let's go deeper. Machiavelli observed that if a ruler must choose between being loved and being feared, he should always choose fear. Why? Because love is conditional. It fades. It wavers. It turns into resentment the moment you disappoint. But fear anchors. Fear keeps people from crossing lines. Fear makes even your enemies think twice. This doesn't mean being cruel. It means being calculating. You don't need to scream. You don't need to threaten. You simply carry the unspoken aura. I don't need you. I see everything. And I will not hesitate. That presence, that is power. Let's talk control. To master perception, you must master yourself first. You cannot be emotionally sloppy. You cannot explain everything. Machiavelli taught that rulers must be like both the lion and the fox. The lion has the strength to crush opposition. The fox has the cunning to avoid traps. You need both. If you're only strong, they'll outsmart you. If you're only smart, they'll overpower you. But if you're both, untouchable. So ask yourself, do people see you as predictable or strategic? Do you give away your emotions? Or do you let people guess your next move? Do you react when challenged? Or do you absorb, wait, and strike when it matters? Because this law, the law of perception, isn't about lying. It's about framing. It's about choosing what image of yourself you allow into the world. Because once you master that, you never have to chase. You never have to beg. You become the center of gravity. Here's the shift. Stop trying to convince people you're worthy. Start showing them nothing and make them wonder what you're hiding. That mystery, that restraint, it's what separates the pawn from the player. So remember, power doesn't announce itself. It moves silently. It wears the mask. It shapes the room. It defines the rules. And it all begins with one law: control perception, or be controlled by it. This is how the people who always win do it. They don't just play the game, they own the board. Now that you understand the law, control perception or be controlled by it, it's time to go deeper. You're not here to survive, you're here to dominate. And domination doesn't come from brute force. It comes from the shadows, from knowing how to touch the mind without laying a finger, from mastering psychological warfare. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Most people are emotionally fragile. They're desperate to be seen, validated, comforted. And that desperation makes them predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. You want power? Learn to exploit 3 things: fear, doubt, ego. Let's start with fear. Fear is the oldest emotion in the brain. It hijacks logic. It distorts time. It makes people obey without understanding why. Machiavelli knew this when he wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved," because fear lingers. It makes people cautious around you. It creates an invisible fence they rarely dare to cross. Here's how to use it. Be unpredictable. People fear what they cannot anticipate. Vary your reactions. Keep your next move hidden. Never let them fully read you. Show calm under pressure. When others panic and you stay still, they begin to fear your control. Never over-explain. Leave gaps in your reasoning. Let them fill those gaps with worst-case scenarios. That's where fear is born. Fear is not rage. It's silence. It's precision. It's your ability to withhold while they overshare. Now let's talk doubt. Doubt is a slow poison. It doesn't strike. It seeps. You don't need to discredit someone loudly. You only need to plant a subtle seed. Are you sure that's the right move? That's one way to see it, I suppose. Interesting choice. Done right, these tiny verbal cuts fracture their confidence. Doubt causes people to second-guess their instincts. Once someone doubts themselves, they'll start seeking your validation. You become the compass. They hand you the steering wheel, without ever realizing they've surrendered. Here's how to use doubt. Use backhanded compliments. Praise something irrelevant while ignoring what they truly want validated. It destabilizes their self-image. Ask questions instead of making accusations. Questions bypass defenses and let the mind sabotage itself. Withdraw approval suddenly. Go cold after warmth. They'll chase the warmth again, on your terms. Doubt is slow warfare. It doesn't bruise the body, it rewires the mind. Now, the most explosive trigger of all, ego. Ego is the easiest way to lead people into traps. Flatter it, and you can get them to do anything. Challenge it, and you can make them destroy themselves. Most people think ego means arrogance. It doesn't. It means identity, the story people tell themselves about who they are. If you control that story, you control them. Here's how to weaponize ego. Mirror admiration. Make them feel seen as the version they want to be. They'll trust you without question. Give them a title, even if it's meaningless. You're the glue of this team. You're the only one I trust with this. It makes them dependent on your recognition. Trigger defensiveness. Say something that subtly threatens their identity. You're not usually this emotional. Now they're on edge, reactive, exposed. People with inflated egos are especially vulnerable. They overextend to protect their image. Set the bait, watch them leap. Now here's the dark twist. You can use all 3 tactics without ever raising your voice. This is why psychological warfare is so effective, because on the surface, it looks like kindness, but beneath, it's pure calculation. Here's the sequence that elite manipulators use. Build rapport, make the target feel seen, safe, special, create dependency, be the source of validation, approval, or opportunity. Introduce subtle fear, unpredictability, distance, delay, doubt, control the frame. Define the meaning of events, reactions, and status. Own the emotional tempo. You set the rhythm, they dance to it. And above all, you remain detached. Never manipulate from emotion. Manipulate from control. You don't need the outcome. You simply steer it. Because the one who can walk away always holds the most power. Let me make one thing clear. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming so psychologically sharp that no one dares put you in check again. Because you see through their moves before they make them. Because you know what to say, when to say it, and when to say nothing. Because you've turned your mind into a weapon. This is how empires are built in silence. How power is gained without raising a sword. How the game is won before the board is even set. So remember, the strongest grip isn't physical, it's psychological. And once you master that, they'll never see you coming. Now you know what most never will. You understand why you've been losing, why the loyal get discarded, why the kind get used, why the honest get outplayed. You've seen how perception is the real battlefield, and how psychological warfare determines who rises and who obeys. But now I'm going to ask you something. What will you do with it? Will you close this video and forget everything? Will you go back to pleasing people who don't respect you? Will you keep living by rules that only benefit others, or will you step into the other side of the game? Because here's the truth most can't face. This knowledge means nothing if you don't use it. Knowing how fear, doubt, and ego can be manipulated doesn't make you powerful. Applying it without apology does. You don't need anyone's permission to be strategic. You don't owe anyone your transparency. You don't have to justify your shift in energy. When they say, "You've changed," look them in the eye and say, "No, I've finally stopped pretending." This is your invitation to evolve, to become untouchable, unreadable, unshakable. But I'm not going to hand you everything in one sitting. This video was the awakening. The next video, that's where I show you how to build your empire from the inside out. We'll go deeper into real-world tactics, how to spot manipulators in any room, how to flip power dynamics without speaking a word, how to dismantle the psychological defenses of anyone standing in your way. And for those ready to truly master this, we're going to talk about emotional detachment, the skill that Machiavelli hinted at, the trait that kings, CEOs, and shadow rulers all possess, the ability to feel without being ruled by feeling. But until then, you've got homework. Here's what I want from you right now. Comment one moment in your life where you were played, hard, betrayed, manipulated, discarded. Get honest. I read everyone, and I'll respond to the real ones. Call it a purge, call it a power move, but put it out there, because owning the pattern is the first step to breaking it. Like this video if you felt it hit something raw, not for the algorithm, for you. So when you come back, you'll remember this was the turning point. Subscribe if you're ready to go further into this world, the world where masks fall, where power flows to those who can handle truth. If that's you, you're exactly who I'm building this army for. Because understand this, the more awake you become, the more illusions you'll shatter. You'll lose people, you'll gain silence, you'll outgrow places, but in return, you'll gain leverage, you'll gain control, you'll gain clarity, and with clarity, you never beg again. You choose, they won't see you coming, they'll ask what changed, and you'll know the answer. You stopped living like a servant in a world run by predators. You stopped being the emotional supply for people who never deserved access to you. You learned the game, and now, you're ready to play it better than anyone. So if you're done with weakness, done with betrayal, done being a pawn, then don't just watch. Act, speak, engage. Join this movement of quiet operators, silent strategists, and minds too sharp to be manipulated. And remember this, the people who always win chose to see what others ignored. They learned the laws, and then they rewrote the rules. Now it's your turn. I'll see you in the next video. Stay sharp, stay silent, stay dangerous.